So we're drinking our Kiev mules.
Our Kiev mules.
Kiev mules.
Uh-huh.
We got some new Ukrainian vodka. It's actually makes for a very good meal. So
it really does. It has a flavor to it. It's kind of got this and I'm not saying this in a bad way, so don't take this in a bad way, but it has a little bit of this like earthiness to it. When you just sip it neat, it's kind of got this like earthy, salt of the earth kind of flavor to it. It definitely feels like it has some mineraliness to the vodka, but it's good. And so we made a Kiev mule, since it's from the Ukraine, out of the vodka, and it's really good. Did you get it at H-E-B?
No, I got it at Specs.
Specs. I love Specs. All right, are we ready to dive in?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Hold on. Let me get comfortable.
We gotta get ready. We gotta get ready.
Podcast readiness. Go!
Welcome to the Wandering RV Podcast, your source for our stories,
our screw-ups,
and our successes living the full-time RV life. I'm your host, Kara, the Wandering RV Babe, and this is my driver, Ryan.
Howdy, friends.
He always does something really weird there, so every time he says howdy, it's always different, or he says hey, it's always different. So I'm always expecting something, and that one was very gentle and very sweet.
Hola, amigos!
Oh, goodness. Well, we are in Texas, so, you know.
We are in Texas.
Yes.
And it's hot.
And, oh, my goodness, it's hot. We took a dip in the pool earlier today, which was super fun. But, yeah, it's humid.
It's, okay, so let me explain.
You're sweating right now.
Because I have to turn the AC off so we can record our stupid podcast.
I know.
Lordy.
Mm-hmm.
So, we left Florida.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, right after our last podcast.
Has it only been 2 weeks? It feels like longer. Continue.
Yes, it's only been...
a lot has happened in 2 weeks.
I guess it's more like 2.5 weeks at this point, but yes,
okay.
It's only been 2 weeks. A lot has happened. I did a 5-day travel day from Fort Pierce, Florida to Fort Worth, Texas, and...
Fort to fort.
Yes, from fort to fort, and it was exhausting. I don't think I know I've never driven that many days in a row for that long. The first day, super windy, like crazy high winds, like 40 mile per hour plus, like verging on me saying, okay, we're not going anywhere. We're stopping, we're finding a campground, and we're hanging out for the night.
Well, and just to qualify, 40 mile an hour, was it consistent or was it gusts?
No, these were gusts.
Okay. Either way, just to qualify 40 mile an hour gusts, at 60 mile an hour gusts, that is enough, if it's a crosswind, to knock an 18-wheeler over. So, and now, I don't know if that 18-wheeler is loaded down or not in that case. We just know and have seen and have heard from reputable sources, 60 mile an hour gusts can knock an 18-wheeler over. We are nowhere near as heavy, nor do we have as many wheels on the ground to add friction and add weight to the ground to stabilize us. So 40 mile an hour gusts is like max, especially for how big and how tall our rig is. So context there. Continue, sir.
Day 2, blew a tire.
Yeah, okay, so I have to say, we're going to get into this here in a minute, but I have to dog on the driver, Ryan. I was not with him at the time. I had to fly in to Fort Worth in advance to attend jury duty, which we talked about last podcast episode. So I wasn't with him at the time. And so I'm working from home, and I'm on my computer or whatever, and I get this text message from him that says, just blew a tire. And it said, from Siri. So I'm like, are you okay? So in 2 minutes time, I responded back, are you okay? Is everyone okay? I heard nothing from it. Radio silence for like 40 minutes, and I'm sitting here going, I don't know where you're at. Should I be calling some emergency services? What should I do? So I texted him back, and I was like, are you okay? With like a whole slew of question marks. Yeah, I'm that wife. And he responds back at that point. He's like, yes, everybody's okay, but there's some damage that we've got to take care of. So I'm just going to dog on you for a minute. And say,
it's already been a minute.
another minute. The next time you text me with something that could to potentially cause you physical harm, I need you to tell me, blew a tire? I am okay. Or blew a tire? Everyone's okay. If you don't respond after that, I get it. I understand you're dealing with stuff. You're in task mode. I understand that. But seriously, man.
I was just updating you as I was learning information.
But the information that is readily available to you at that moment is, I am okay.
I didn't have my phone on me. I'm out there changing a tire.
I know, and the blurb sent from Siri is what tipped me off. I was like, are you hurt? Are you in dire straits? You can't get to your phone? What is happening?
I don't think that would have been the message I would have sent if I was in dire straits. It would have been, send help.
Maybe so, yes, maybe so. But still, don't make me worry like this. Don't make me worry.
Oh, so we blew that tire out, and we'll get into more details later. But because of that, we were going to go ahead and replace the tire behind it. Yes, the tire behind it as well, because the tread had separated, and so we wanted to make sure that everything was good and the tire behind it wasn't messed up. So I called up a discount tire and got those tires replaced, and then when we got there, ordered some tires to get replaced that day, and when we got there, we come to find out the tires that were on our RV were a year and a half old before they were on the RV and we bought the RV. So we're DOT certified, year and a half old before we even bought the RV. So these tires now at this point are crazy old. So we need to go ahead.
They're not crazy old, but they're older than we probably would have allowed them to get.
And so then I was like, okay, we need to replace the other two tires. Well, they didn't have the other two. They had to get them shipped in. So the next day started with us waking up super early to get down to Discount Tire and sit in their parking lot until they got our replacement tires in, which took all morning long.
Yeah, word to the wise, that was probably a screw-up on our part. It was for sure a screw-up on our part. When you buy a new camper or a new-to-you camper, check the date on the tires, and it's probably not a bad idea to go ahead and just replace them and build that into your cost when you first buy an RV. We did not do that, and clearly we paid somewhat of a consequence for it.
Well, because they'd actually put some moderately good tires on there, I wasn't as worried about replacing them immediately.
Yeah.
So anyways, then the next day, so we did that one day, and then the next day we get to our campsite, and we get everything set up, and the manager's sitting there talking to us, distracting us while I'm setting everything up. And I don't notice, I'm already hooking up water and everything, and I don't notice I've got the surge protector plugged in, that it's, throwing up a red error that, nope, don't use this electricity. And so I called up the manager, was like, hey, we've got an issue with the electricity box. Can we switch sites? And she was like, yeah, that's fine. So she came by, we found another spot. So then I had to re-hitch up, undo everything I'd done, and then move spots. I mean, this was just one thing after another every single day. There was not a single day that something unexpected didn't happen.
I'm very thankful, though, because I had to fly out and go to Fort Worth early. We actually, and thankfully Ryan's dad was available, we flew him down to drive with Ryan. So that way he had somebody who could just, if nothing else, be company for him, but also be another pair of eyes. And so I'm really glad that we did, because he came in handy in a lot of ways.
And a lot of ways he was more helpful than you would have been when changing the tire.
100%. There's no way. I would have been... Honestly, guys, there's a reason why we don't have a TikTok video about having to change the tire and the tire, getting, blown out in the moment. I think we posted a story about it, but that was about it. Because I wasn't there. And that's about all I would have been able to do. I'm not well versed in how to do that. I'm not mechanically inclined, whereas he was able to actually help you, which was really good. But this is now day 3 of something happening while you're traveling, which is already stressful enough. All right, so that's another thing to think about too, is, and the way you described the manager at this particular RV park, it sounds like she was very, very sweet.
Oh, yes.
But that is one thing to keep in mind. If you're new to RV life, just kind of getting into, doing RV trips and things like that, please, please, please do not distract your neighbors when they're hitching and unhitching their rig, because that's when shit happens. That's when crazy things happen when people forget to check something that they normally forget because they're distracted. On the same side of that coin, I would say if you are a camper, you own an RV and you do RV camping, make sure you have a checklist both for hitching up and unhitching, and then really try to refer back to that and just double, triple check it, especially if you get distracted during that process, because it's going to happen eventually.
So, tell us how your jury duty went.
Boo. Okay, so what I will say is I don't mind serving jury duty. I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, here's the ways to get out of it, and here's ways to, like, avoid it. I don't mind. I don't mind it at all. I just don't want it to be a waste of time. And what I will say is, beyond the fact that I had to fly in early, and I hate to fly, y'all, like, it causes severe anxiety for me. So beside that terrible trauma that I had to go through with doing jury duty, the actual process itself was fairly efficient. I think they learned something from COVID when they had to do everything virtually. And so all the correspondence was through email or text. They had me fill out certain questionnaires ahead of time. They assigned me to a courtroom ahead of time, like assigned me to a time and place ahead of time. So I knew exactly where to go. And then the morning of hits and mid-morning, I was supposed to go in like right after lunch. They texted me and emailed me and they said, hey, the case was dismissed. You get credit for serving jury duty, but don't show up, which was nice. That they were so efficient about it. I really give them kudos for it. But at the same time, it felt a little bit all for naught because I didn't actually have to go in for jury duty. It totally got canceled 2 hours before I was supposed to go in. So I could have been on the road with him, but as we already mentioned, I probably would have been less helpful than your dad.
True statement.
Yeah.
So, the other reason we came back to Texas, actually what preceded the jury duty and then you kind of arranged jury duty to line up with, was the big family reunion party get-together thing.
Yeah, his parents had a really big milestone anniversary, which is super fun. And they had a big, party to celebrate with all their friends and family. And so we all came in for it, which was awesome because we got to see family that we haven't seen in a while. We got to see friends that we haven't seen in a while. It was super great. But it was definitely really fast and furious because the family is not together the rest of the year. We also, the next day, went out to dinner, celebrated everybody's birthdays, kind of like for the year, kind of a family happy birthday celebration, which was super fun.
Happy birthday to everyone!
Happy birthday to everyone! It was funny so we went to Hibachi, where they like do all the fun cooking in front of you stuff. And somebody asked something about like, oh, is it somebody's birthday? I guess they overheard us talking, and we were like, yeah, it's everybody's birthday. And they were like, So, no, nobody got like a fun like free cake or anything like that from the restaurant because they probably were like, what are y'all doing? But that was a fun celebration and a fun way to just spend some time with family. And then our dog got hurt.
Oh.
So this all happened in one weekend, guys. So this whole weekend, he finally arrives. There's damage to the RV. He's got 4 new tires. We'll get into this here in a minute. He still had to go back and get some repairs done from some things that happened while getting 4 new tires on the RV. We have this big family party. Obviously we're pitching in to help. We have this big family like birthday get together, and then our dog gets injured. So our dog is a little older. She's 9 years old, so she's an older girl. She's also bigger. She's 50 pounds or so. Maybe not quite 50 pounds, but she's a little bit bigger. And she was playing with a younger dog that is in the family as well, Puppy, who is also about the same size as her. So same weight, same velocity, much different level of energy. And I don't know, they were playing, she never yelped or anything, but all of a sudden we see Dodger coming back through the living room and she's limping on 3 legs. She's not even putting weight on her right leg at all. It's really great. So we take her into the vet. They tell us it is a knee injury of some kind to her knee. And now our job is to keep her life as boring as possible for the next month give her pain medicine. She can go out to, go get her business done and eat and all this other kind of stuff. But, like, for the most part, she needs to just be laying down. Which is fine if it's just the two of us. But if there's people around or other animals around, she wants to be in the middle of all of that. So we're having to really keep her kind of secluded, which super sucks.
Which is why we're now staying in Texas for another 4 weeks so we can keep an eye on her, because they said if it doesn't improve in a few more weeks, we need to get x-rays.
Yeah.
So we can get repair work done on the RV from all the cosmetic damage. Well, really, we're actually just trying to get parts ordered, because they said it's a 4 to 6 week wait, so we're only here for 4 weeks, so we're just trying to get the parts ordered, and then we'll
figure out how to install them later.
Yeah, we'll just move on at that point.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like, this is part of our RV life. Things are going to happen, and you're going to have to shift your plans and change your plans because things will happen. So that's what happened to us, is we are staying in Texas about 3 weeks longer than we expected. We were actually going to hit New Mexico for a little bit. We've scrapped that plan, and part of that is, one, to take care of the RV, but part of it, too, is to wait, let the dog heal a little bit and see if she needs to get x-rays, and then if she does need to get x-rays, figure out a plan for what the next step of treatment is for her. It could be surgery. It could not be surgery. We don't know, but in the meantime, yay. Just trying to keep her life boring and get the stuff done that we need to get done. All right, so are we ready to dive in a little bit more to your crazy tire blowout?
Sure.
Okay, because I have some questions. I wasn't there, so I actually have some questions for you.
Okay.
All right.
Ask away.
All right.
I'm ready. Give it to me. Give me all you got, Captain.
So that happened. So I'm curious. What was Star Trek?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
I figured it out.
Good job.
I got the reference.
Thank you for not saying Star Wars.
No. I would not say Star Wars. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
So going back to the tire blowout initially, how did that actually happen?
Well,
because let me qualify this question. We check our tires every single time we get on the road. We check the pressure on our tires. We do not have a TPMS system. We are looking to getting one as well. We check our tires. We check the temperature. We visually inspect the tread just to see if there's anything going on with it. And I did not see any cracks or any concerns with the tires the day before, which is when I left. And then I think you and your dad both inspected the tires the morning of the blowout and didn't see anything either. And y'all are much more well-versed than I am in checking that kind of thing. So, how did it happen? How did we get a blowout?
So, blowout's probably a very pseudo term. It's not the correct term for what actually happened. We had what's called tread separation. The effect is a blowing out of the tire, but it's very different. A blowout usually is caused by either heat or under pressure, over pressure, other sudden decrease in pressure, random things like that. Tread separation is generally something that just happens over time, especially with older tires, where basically the pressure just bulges somewhere, loosens the connecting rubber and tissue, and then eventually it just separates and then blows off and causes a blowout at that point. So what you would be looking for to have caught this would have been a minor bulge, usually towards on the top, like on the actual tread of the tire, not on the sidewalls, but on the top. And it can, obviously with the tire rotating, you may not notice the bulge as much in certain areas as you would in others. So like when the tire's rotated one way, the bulge may be very obvious when it's on top, but then when it's towards the sides and the tires are starting to balloon as they're getting lower anyways, it may not be as obvious. And especially when that spot is on the ground, you're obviously not going to see it. So the concept is you check it every time you stop, every time you take a break, every bathroom break, gas break, whatever, you just check them. And that way, in theory, over the course of time, you're hopefully catching all angles of the tire so you can watch for that bulge and be like, hey, something's about to happen.
That makes sense.
We did. We checked our tires. We were looking at them. We were kind of off and on glancing at them. Whether we were paying close enough attention or not, hard to say. My dad especially, he's caught blown out he's caught tread separation before it actually results in damage. And so you would think between the two of us looking at it, you would think we would have caught something if we could have. So it may have just been bad luck where the bulge was just always in a spot where we couldn't see it. Maybe it happened fairly quickly, honestly.
Yeah.
Again, it's more common with older tires as the rubber, gets dried out and breaks apart. That, again, decreases, how much you've got, decreases your surface power to where eventually that bulge is going to occur and then it can rip off. And so it could have happened quickly, honestly.
So you mentioned the tires had been on quite a bit of time before we bought the RV. We've been RVing now for at least a year and a half. Now that we have 4 new tires, when would you plan, knowing that we full time, to replace these 4 new tires?
So,
what would be a good rule of thumb for us that you feel like would be safe?
Yeah, so 2-year-old tires are kind of the sweet spot when it comes to trailer tires.
Okay.
The tread on trailer tires is not as thick a lot of times, and so you're going to be coming down on the thread anyways, depending on how many miles you're putting on it.
Right.
And even if you're not putting a ton of miles on it, they're also
still
aging. They're resting, drying, aging as time goes on, which is also going to cause damage. So realistically, you could say there's a mile marker and there's a time marker, but for us at least, 2 years is a really safe bet. At about 2 years, we should be replacing the tires. So these were a year and a half old. They were just sitting. We don't know if they were on the trailer or not. I presume they weren't. They were probably sitting in some storage facility, potentially drying out. Then they were put on the trailer, and then they sat on that trailer for several months before we bought the trailer, and then we've been driving on them for a year and a half. So we've gotten
probably 3 years.
It's been 3 years since they were, because your tire has a date on it. It's a number / year, and that number might be a little confusing. It's actually the week of the year, so if it's 12/2022, that is the 12th week of
the year
of 2022, not December 2022.
Oh, that is good to know. So if it says 52/2022, it's the last week of the year.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And so that's what you're looking at, is that's giving you the date of when it was manufactured and put out for use. So after about 2 years after that is about the time you should probably be looking at potentially getting replaced. Obviously, ours was an extreme scenario. And again, this may have not done anything for us. This may not even have been the contributing factor. It was just an interesting thing to find out. I assumed that the tires were probably only at most 6 months old by the time we bought the trailer. And that's the issue, is I assumed rather than checking it myself, which is very easy to do.
Yeah.
So
totally.
I should have done that. And now it's something to think about. When you buy a trailer, go ahead and look at the date on the tires. Even if the tires look good and they are the kind of tires you would, the brand and model you would put on your trailer anyways, which they were for me, go ahead and look at the year, because if they're super old, you may want to go ahead and start planning in a cycle to go ahead and get those tires replaced. I did it with my truck, honestly, when we
did do it with the truck, yeah.
Yeah, so Tracy asked, did the trailer sustain any damage?
Oh, it sure did.
Only cosmetic, though. There's one spot where water could, splash up when we're driving down the road, and we're probably just going to hit it with flex tape, and that's probably, we have duct tape. We have duct tape on it right now, but we're probably going to fix it up with flex tape, because it's just one little spot. Everything else, the motors for the slide outs were fine, the hydraulics were far enough away. Basically, the only thing that got damaged was the cosmetic elements, like the trim.
Yeah.
And so, luckily, that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, we lucked out there for sure. Just because, I saw a picture of the actual tire itself, and it was gnarly looking. It looks like it could have caused a ton of damage, and thankfully it didn't. So really quickly, I want to go back to the actual moment that it happened.
Okay.
Because there's a ton of, and I think that this is very possible in any situation, but there's a ton of concerns about, well, if you blow a tire, it could cause you to lose control. So were you able to maintain control? And if so, how? How did you maintain control and kind of get pulled over to the side of the road and be able to do that safely?
So the biggest loss of control for most people when they're pulling a trailer is if they're overloading their truck, or they don't have a good enough either weight distribution bar or sway control on their trailer. Most people feel like they've got a small trailer and they've got a big enough truck, they don't need sway control or they don't need a weight distribution bar. That is not true. Yes, you probably are fine, but in the most extreme of scenarios, especially that sway control is super, super important, and that's where the tire blowouts really can cause people to lose a ton of control, is either overweighting or not enough sway control, and then so that tire blows out and it starts to veer, and it just veers more and more until it until it starts to be the driving force instead of your vehicle. For me, for our truck and our trailer, because we're in a really good spot, honestly, when the tire blew, if I hadn't heard it and then looked in my mirror and saw it, I don't think I would have even known that it had happened, honestly.
Ooh, that's kind of an interesting point, too, to make, is, like, sometimes we play music on the road and we're, like, jamming out, so that's something I think to keep in mind too, is like, don't be blaring your music.
No.
And even when you're driving, make sure you and at least your driver's side passenger, if you have one, is kind of like checking every now and then. Because can you imagine if that tire had blown, you hadn't heard it, you didn't feel it, and it just sat there for a little bit? That would have put way too much extra pressure on the other 3 tires, which could have caused even more damage.
Which could have caused another blowout, which would have then really damaged things and could have caused a lot of problems. I mean, I thought about it the other night. We were driving in late at night, and I was sitting there thinking about it. I was like, I mean, I already know in theory this tire could blow out and I won't feel it. I can't see it, and it was raining with some heavy lightning. Like, what would happen if it blew out right when that thunder hit, and we can't see it? And I don't even realize it, and we're just barreling on down the road.
This is why I hate driving at night, especially when we're towing, is because we really can't see. This was kind of a necessity. It was circumstances beyond our control, but that's another word to the wise, is when possible, we try to travel only during the daytime.
Tracy, our vehicle is our trailer is a 5th wheel. And so we don't have stabilizer bars or weight distribution bars, but we are locked in on a truck that is almost 3/4, like its weight is about 3/4 the weight of the trailer. And so like we've got a lot planted down there in the front. And so with that blowout, it was hardly noticeable. But again, that's where the ratios kind of start to fall. And so it depends on how, with a tow behind, you really need to have those sway bars in there, even if you don't think you do. Just because if something does happen, those sway bars are going to decrease the amount of sway, which is going to give you more time to recover if it does start to sway. Whereas, like I said, for mine, I didn't feel any sway whatsoever. But again, safety. The
more things that you can do to add safety, whether you think you need it or not, is probably a good idea.
Yeah, So I heard a pop, or I don't even know if pop's the right word. I heard a sound, and so I then checked my mirrors and saw in my right mirror a piece of...
Because it was on the passenger side, right?
Yeah. I saw a piece of rubber fly into the air, and I was like, oh,
that's probably us.
we just blew a tire. And so it was very, I'm glad thank you. We are glad to be safe as well.
Yes. Yeah, hence the reason for me chastising him earlier in the episode is all I heard at this point was blew a tire. And because I wasn't traveling with him, I had no context for what had happened.
Yep.
So I'm glad that you were safe. So y'all got pulled over, and then what did you do after that?
So luckily there was an exit only about a mile away, and like I said, we were it was nice and smooth, so I was able to get us down to the exit. If it had been any farther out, we probably would have had to pull over on the highway. But we got off onto the off-ramp. I immediately started getting all my stuff out and to jack the trailer up and remove the tire. And then Dad started helping out, which is a thing that you wouldn't have been able to do. It started pulling stuff out of the basement, because that's where our spare tire is actually
in our basement.
In the center in our basement. And so you have to pull some of our passenger side accessories that we pull out at campsites, and so it's not super heavy, but there's a few items that are a little bit heavier and harder to get to. Yeah. And so he got the spare tire out while I was jacking up the trailer, and then I, used the breaker bar to take the tire off, and then got the spare on, tightened it down, and then used the torque wrench to get it to 125 foot-pounds of torque, and then double checking, make sure we checked the other tires, we checked pressure on all the tires and everything. Obviously the spare was a little low. I kind of like to store my spares low because I've got a 12-volt compressor, so it's really easy for me to just fill it up when I need to, and it's not generally good to have your tire at max pressure when it's just sitting there.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And so
that just stretches out the rubber and
exactly
causes
yeah. And so I
issues.
Had to refill the air on the tire, which was again not a big deal. Just took us a few minutes. Got that done. Like I said, we checked every tire, checked the truck tires, checked all 4 tires, made sure it was good. We definitely saw what appeared to be some damage on the tire right behind it, so that's why we immediately knew. When I called up that I wanted to go ahead and replace both of them. And so, yeah, that's...
Okay, no, that's really helpful. We did a TikTok on just like the top 5 safety things for tires, just to help prepare you for any kind of tire issue at all. Like the compressor was one of the things that was in there. We're planning on doing another TikTok on like the top 5 things you need, tools you need in order to change a tire on the road. We do have services like roadside assistance and services like that through our insurance company. But if you can do it, that's going to take a long time. You're just sitting on the side of the road for a couple of hours until they manage to get out to you. So if you have somebody who is capable of doing it themselves, then hopefully that will help. So that'll be coming out sometime soon as well. But so you get to Discount Tire and replace the 2 tires. The next day, realize you need to replace the other 2 tires. So we have 4 new tires. But then you told me when you finally got to Fort Worth, you were like, "Hey, gonna have to take it back in." So why did we have to take it back in after we have 4 brand new tires?
So when after they replaced the 2 tires that first day, I had them move the new tires to the front, so that way they were new tires on the front, old tires on the rear, and so they moved it over to the left side. And in the process of moving and reattaching the tire, they stripped out the stud that holds the lug nut on.
Okay.
And
like the little z.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And so they stripped that out. They stripped it out the night before. Then we figured out we needed to go ahead and get two more anyway. So we were going to come back the next day. So they were going to see what they could do about just fixing it themselves. So we came back the next day. They tried to fix it. They rethreaded it. We were able to get the lug nut on. But that night, I figured out that... so when we had bought our trailer, I found a crack in one of our wheels that was just slowly losing air while we were stationary. We were there for about a month and a half, I think. Yeah. And I noticed that it was just kept slowly losing air. What was going on? And so I took it into Discount Tire and I was like, "Hey, like I'm slowly losing air. Like I'm thinking."
I thought it was the tire.
Yeah, I thought it was the tire, or maybe the stem or something that needed to be replaced. They're like, "No, actually, this is a crack in the wheel." And so I was like, "Oh, okay."
From the dealer. Brand new.
Called the dealer up. They can't do anything about it. They don't keep them in stock.
And it wasn't under warranty either. Or no, was it?
It doesn't matter. It wasn't under warranty. But the issue is that they don't keep them in stock, so I was going to have to order them and wait for 4 to 6 weeks to get it. And I was like, well, that's not going to do them any good. So I went back to Discount Tire. They still had the tire. I was just calling and trying to figure all this out. And so I went back to them and I was like, "Hey, okay, we just need a new wheel." And so I was like, "Give me something as similar as you can. That's the same style wheel, but obviously, I don't care if it looks exactly the same." So they had ordered a new one. This was a year and a half ago. This was November 2021. November 2021. Obviously, we've been driving around for, on that wheel this entire time. Well, since we were doing all this work, me and my dad noticed that the wheel didn't look like it was the same width as the other wheels, and so the tire was actually bulging upwards. And so we get back, to Fort Worth, and between needing to get the they pulled the tire back off so we could check and see if the sizes were correct or not, and they weren't. The new one was 6 inches, and the actual factory ones were all 7-inch wide.
So they gave us the wrong wheel.
So they gave us the wrong wheel. And Discount Tire was fully willing to acknowledge that and take care of it, no big deal. But when they went to put it back on, this was on the axle that had the stud that was stripped. They went to put it back on, and yep, the rethreading of the stud did not last. And so they're like, okay, we're gonna have to have you go take this and get this repaired. Or replaced, actually, not repaired, replaced. And so they were like, okay, here's one of the shops that we use for this all the time. So I called them up. We don't work on trailers. Okay. So I called Discount Tire back. I was like, hey, who else can I work with? Here's 2 more shops. They want to look at it first to decide if they even want to work on it. And I was like...
Which is already tough as a full-time RVer. I mean, even if you're a weekend warrior, like, you're pulling it out of storage, you're having to go take it, like... That is major inconvenience. If you're a full-timer, that displaces you from your home for the day, so you can go take it in.
Well, and they wanted to look. Ideal. They wanted to look at it just to know if they would even work on it.
Yeah.
And then they give me some BS about it being. They asked me if it was drum or disc brakes, and I'm like, drum brakes, and they're like, I don't know if we can work on drum brakes or not. And I was like, okay, I'm not taking my trailer to you just for you to say no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Especially because we don't know their facility, we don't know the size of their parking lot. Like, it's a big rig. It's not like we can just scooch on over there and squeeze in for them to take a look at it. So
I told Discount Tire, I'm going to find somebody else. I'm going to find somebody I know who can do it, and we got that taken care of.
Yeah,
that was
thankfully
fine.
We have a great friend who was able to work on it and support us on that.
While he was working on it, I took the wheel, just tossed it in the back of the truck, took it to Discount Tire, got the new wheel put on that's actually 7 inches wide, like it's supposed to be.
The right size wheel.
Right size wheel. Took it back, put it back on, and then hitched up, and we were ready to go.
Yeah, so that is the saga of the wheels, the tires, all of the things. We've had some trouble with our tires, let me just say. But now we have some cosmetic damage that we have to take a look at. One of the things that we've run into, which we're not surprised by, is everything is taking 4 to 6 weeks to get in. And so we're going to have it appraised to find out what parts we even need to get, and then be able to order those parts and figure out where we can have them shipped to for wherever we're going to be, and then probably just find somebody locally to come and install them. Some of it we might be able to do ourselves, especially the outside trim or the skirting on the RV, we might be able to do that ourselves. But the undercarriage part that Ryan was mentioning that we're right now sealing with flex tape, that we probably will need an RV tech to help us out with. So more to come there, but that was the saga of the RV. It hasn't all been bad, though, has it?
It's just been exhausting.
It has been exhausting. But we did some fun upgrades, though, too. We replaced the backsplash in the kitchen. The backsplash that the RV came with was kind of just this one solid, was it like a plastic piece, ultimately? It's
just very, very generic, like not even like the peel and stick kind. Like they literally just had like double-sided tape on the back of it. It was super cheap.
And it was peeling up, especially where the oven is, where it gets hot. It was peeling up. It actually was peeling up when we bought the RV, so this was a plan that we initially had when we bought it. We just kind of got around to it because we were stationary long enough to be able to do that. But we bought some peel and stick backsplash from Amazon. You did have some trouble with it.
It's not ideal. I would not recommend the same style that we used if you're doing it in certain areas of the RV, because it really does need a nice, smooth, very level surface to be able to work properly. And especially with our kitchen kind of being in the back corner, it's kind of at an inflection point where sometimes it's not quite perfect
100% level.
Yeah, and so it just made for a lot more complicated process that I think I probably wouldn't recommend for this. Again, it does look very nice, like,
looks
aesthetically.
Good. Yeah.
It just doesn't look very even, and so it was just very hard to get it to look as even as I even could, and so
yeah,
just something I would suggest is, yeah, we put it up on the Amazon page, but if you want to do it, just keep in mind, like, you really need to be in an ideal scenario to use it. So don't just think, oh, we're going to put this in random places. And don't think that you're going to be curving around windows. The one that we got is not designed for that. It is designed, you cut it, and then you break it, and you get nice angles and hard angles, which is, again, why it wants a level surface. But doing curves, I
mean, if you have the right tools, great. And you have the patience for it, great. But we were like, no, we're good. We're good. We'll stop before we get to the window and call it a day there. But yeah, we do still need to put the sealant around it, like the caulking around it, just to waterproof it. And we'll do that probably sometime this week. But beyond that, I think it looks great. The driver Ryan has a much higher perfectionist rate than I do, and so for him, he sees every imperfection in terms of, like, if it's off level or off center a little bit. I don't see it. So for what that's worth, if you're like me and you're like, hey, when you glance at this or when you use it every single day, if it looks really good to you, then great. But if you have somebody in your family who's like, every T has to be crossed, every I has to be dotted, then yeah, I would say it's not going to be 100% perfect unless you are just super meticulous about it. And I will say, if you really want to be that meticulous about it, or you want it to go up a window or around a curve, then you probably do need to make sure that you've invested in the right tools, or you rent the right tools in order to make that happen. The other thing that we did that was a much easier project was we replaced our shower door in our bathroom with a shower curtain. The shower doors, and a lot of RVs are putting them in now, but they're like it's like 3 different panes of glass that all slide and they overlap, and they're on a track, and so they're really hard to clean. And what I would say is, we had a glass shower door in our house before we sold it. It was much, much easier to clean than the glass that's in the RV shower doors. I don't know why, if it has some sort of like plexiglass sealant on it or something like that, but it is much harder to clean. It's hard to clean in between those overlapping panes of glass. It's hard to clean the track. I have to get like a toothbrush to clean the track. It took me longer to clean that RV shower door than it did to clean the entire rest of the RV. And that is like deep cleaning the RV. So, plus it's heavy. And, you know, in an RV, if you're going to do an upgrade, try to do something that's lightweight. Try to do something that's lighter weight than what you started with, or at least the same weight that you started with. So, for us, we went ahead and installed a shower curtain. We bought a shower rod that we could screw into the wall so that it's not going to move on travel day. And then now we have a shower curtain that's washable, so we can just toss it in the washer whenever we toss our towels in there. So, good stuff. That was a pretty easy upgrade. Yeah. The driver Ryan took care of that for me as well. And then what we did is now I will say this is kind of a fun camping etiquette tip. If you're going to do upgrades to your camper, and that's going to produce a lot of waste that then needs to be disposed of in a trash can, make sure you ask permission at wherever you're staying at before you just dump it in the dumpster. 1, that's the courteous thing to do. 2, you may or may not know when they're scheduled to have pickups for their trash, and they have so many people coming through that need to throw their trash away that they may ask you to wait and do it on a certain day, or they may say, hey, our trash cans can't afford that. Like, they can't hold that type of waste. And so just be aware of that. It's a good thing to do as a courtesy. It's not something like, you don't want to burn a bridge with a campground that you enjoy just because you didn't ask that question. So that's something to keep in mind. Thankfully, the campground we were staying at were super, super amazing and accommodating, and they were like, yeah, sure, go for it. Do you want to borrow a wheelbarrow to help you with taking one trip to the dumpster instead of 2? We were like, yes, thank you. So that's our advice there. But yeah, those were great upgrades. Those were easy upgrades, and more fun than having to do repairs or changing tires when you're in the middle of a 5-day travel day. All right. Do we have a pick of the week? I don't think we have a pick of the week. Oh my goodness. Guys, I'm so sorry we don't have a pick of the week this week. Normally our pick of the week is a tip or a trick or a product or a service that we use that we really like. We're not sponsored by anybody at this moment in time, so this is just kind of our general advice. We usually try to line up our pick of the week to something that we're talking about that week, but what you got any ideas?
Probably a good pick of the week, maybe just a nice little tip, is that just check your spare tires. Your truck spare tire, your trailer spare tire, just double check them, make sure that they're in good shape every once in a while, because a lot of people don't think about it until they need it, and then it's when you need it, all of a sudden it's like, okay, how do we make this work if things aren't great? And so one of the things we carry around for that purpose is an emergency tire repair kit.
Oh, hey, looky there. Pick of the week.
So the reason to use it is only in a scenario where either your spare tire also happens to fail, or you fail 2 tires at once, and we're talking about use this to get yourself down the road to somewhere safe. Don't even
travel
on it. Don't, like, we traveled another 2 hours on our spare tire. Don't even do that with a tire repair kit. We're talking like you're just trying to get to the next closest gas station or whatever, that someplace where you can just pull over, stop, and actually get somebody out to you and get their help. It's more about just an emergency, get yourself another 5-10 minutes down the road situation. Do not try to use it for anything else beyond that.
Yeah, and a tire repair kit is just for, like, if you get a nail in your tire or something like that. It's not going to help you if there's tread separation. Wouldn't have helped us in that scenario. But we do have a tire repair kit. We have 2 actually, as well as the compressor that we can plug into the 12 volt in the truck. And so that would be in a situation where we get a nail in the tire, we get down the road to a place where we can get that tire replaced, or at least a place where it's safe, where he can pull the tire off, and then we can drive and go get it replaced. But yeah, that's a great tip to have. It's something, they're cheap. I think we have them on our Amazon store, but they're not expensive at all.
Nope,
Neither is the compressor.
We do not have the tire repair kit on Amazon. I'm not going to encourage anybody to buy that. You need to know when that's...
We have the compressor on Amazon, though. But yeah, no, and there's multiple tire repair kits, but just know that it's definitely something good to have, but it's not necessarily something you should 100% rely on, because it's not going to help you in every circumstance.
And TX brings up a great point. Here's another tip for you. Grease your axle bearings.
Oh, yeah.
Not everybody talks about it very often, because it's just kind of one of those not luxurious things. While we were having all this work done, we went ahead and had ours greased while we were at it, because we were already pulling the tire off and we were pulling the drum off for the brakes. Great time to go ahead, and we did that one, and then I just had the guy go ahead and do all 4 of them, so that way your axle bearings are in good shape. Because guess what? If your axle bearing seizes up, you're just losing that wheel. There ain't no. It's not a matter of, oh, you can put a new tire on. No, that whole thing's coming off if it seizes up on you. So
yeah, and that's one, right? You should do about every year, 10,000 miles.
Every 10,000 miles or year,
whichever comes first.
Whichever comes first, and then they talk about, actually, for those who don't use their RV a lot, sometimes you might need to be doing it more often, because it's actually worse when they sit than it is when it's actually going down the road. So keep that in mind. Even if you don't travel a ton, you still need to be doing that at least every year.
Good to know. Yeah, great tips. So you get 2 for the price of 1 this week. You get 2 pick of the weeks. Are we doing the fan question?
Oh yeah, we do. We
should do the fan question. So we actually had a fan question come in before the chat about this topic, and we were just telling some people about it. And so somebody asked, what are the best tires to put on a camper? So I'm gonna let you answer that, because you know what you're talking about.
There's
trailer tires. I don't know.
It's going to depend on your trailer, your weight, your needs. There's a lot of reasons why putting a light truck tire on your trailer can be a really good option if the weight actually is good enough. So, i.e., the weight of your trailer is within the spec of the weight of the light truck tires. Trailer tires actually have a stronger sidewall in theory, slightly stronger sidewall. So they are rated actually for a higher load than light truck tires are. So we're talking, maybe a 10% difference between the two. And with that in mind, your best trailer tires, generally speaking, there's going to be others out there, so this is just one option, is something like a Goodyear Endurance. They're designed for trailers. They have really strong sidewalls. They have a really good warranty on them if something happens early on, and there's Goodyear shops all over the country, so that's a really great option. There's a few newcomers to the market who are making trailer tires, and honestly, they may be amazing. I haven't looked into any of them. I don't know enough to say that they may be better or worse. They just exist, and they're more of an unknown quantity right now because they're younger. As they get more into the market, who knows? They may become the best. But right now, for the most part, when it comes to trailer tires, Goodyear Endurance is a good actual trailer tire. And then if you want to go for the light truck tires, Michelin LTXs are kind of always the go-to standard. But those are kind of, if you want to look those directions, there's plenty of others out there. So it's just look at the ratings, look at the what the tire is designed for, and go read some reviews online. You might find some tires out there that you may really love.
Hey friends, thanks for listening. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat. I think that's all. Or you can contact us on our website at beacons.ai/wanderingRVbabe. That's beacons.ai/wanderingRVbabe. So we'd love to connect. Definitely send us your tips, your tricks, your screw-ups, your stories. We'd love to hear about them, and we'll see you next time.
Go get you some.
Go get you some what?
I don't know. A drink?
Yes. We gotta get you some new drinks.
So you want to tell everybody what you're making again?
Yeah, I'm making a Ukraine mule, the Kiev mule, because we are using Ukrainian vodka, which is super cool. It's actually really good. It has kind of a minerally note to it, but because it's from the Ukraine, we decided to call it a Ukraine mule. So it